7 o'clock. So I'm going to ask Nick to call his meeting to order.
I will call a building planning meeting to order for this evening. Stand for
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'll kind of explain a little bit what we're doing. We have a special meeting for the Building and Planning Commission happening tonight, where we're going to have a joint public hearing for both the Planning Commission and the Town Council members to listen to a presentation and then have a general comments from the public. And then the Planning Commission meeting will, the public hearing will close. The Planning Commission will have a vote on whether or not to recommend to the council to go forward with adopting the comprehensive plan that we've been working on the last year. And then that meeting will close, and then the town council meeting will open up and start its process. So to begin, I don't know who wants to take off first. Mike Klein-Peter, you have the floor.
So good evening, council and public. Mike Klein-Peter Consulting Group. I'm the OCRA certified grant administrator that assisted the town in applying for grant funds back in November of 2022. We received $40,000 in grant funds from the Indiana Office of Community and Rural Affairs to put together a comprehensive planning grant. The town contributed $20,000 of local match funds from the Eat It Fund. The town went through a request for qualification process, interviewed different firms to put this plan together. American Structure Point won that RFQ process. We then submitted the application and received funding. Since then, Matt and his team has been working with the town to put together a plan, and for tonight is a presentation of that plan to the public. There'll be an opportunity for questions and comments from the council. And with that, I'll turn it over to Matt.
Thank you, Mike. Good evening, everybody. My name is Matthew O'Rourke. I'm the Planning and Economic Development Group Leader for American Structure Point. I know a lot of folks know us as engineers in the Indianapolis area, but I'm an urban planner. I was trained as an urban planner, did a lot of that. Worked in the public sector for 15 years, actually, doing planning, zoning administration, various items like that. So with that, do we have the PowerPoint pulled up? Maybe, can I steal a mouse? That might. So or you just direct it?
Yeah, your USB is plugged into where the mouse would normally be, sorry.
Well, that's all right then. We'll just do it this way.
I'll forward as best I can as I follow.
All righty. I appreciate that.
We'll just go.
So yeah, we can go to the next slide.
You got it.
So essentially, what is a comprehensive plan? It really is a blueprint. It's a 20-year vision on Clayton. What kinds of items you'd like to see, evolve over the next 20 years. It's meant to really be policies and things that we act on more in the next 5 to 10 years, and I'll explain a little more of that later. But we want to have a 20-year mindset. We want to say, what does Clayton evolve to over those 20 years? What does that look like? What doesn't that look like? Oftentimes we're trying to figure out what, as much as what we want, what do we want to preserve, what do we want to replicate, what do we want to keep intact? So we do that. It summarizes policy decisions to help streamline them, put them in order so it can help provide that guidance, and then steer the board towards those decisions and those common visions. Major elements are usually a vision statement, goals and objectives, future land use map, and critical path strategies. We'll have some things that explain that, but really from state statute and from other comprehensive plans, what we're looking at here is you have 3 items in the state statute that you're really trying to hit, and that's what's on those slides there. It says we're looking for clear objectives for the future development. That's what the future land use map's all about. Statement of policy and land use development decisions in the jurisdiction, so where do you have zoning control, and a statement of policy of the development of public ways. That could be sidewalks, roads, public transit, you name it, all those things. Those are the 3 things that the state statute says are part of a comprehensive plan. They've very much evolved over time. This is being an Oprah-funded grant. This definitely has a little bit more to it than that, but really the key here is that you use this document to help guide your land use decisions into the future. Your future land use map directly ties to your zoning code and as you develop those ordinances. We don't do this in a vacuum. We very much go out. We like to talk to a lot of groups, a lot of community members, a lot of residents. We want to hear your feedback. We want to make sure we're doing what you expect us to do. We don't have what I call pride of authorship in these plans per se. We believe in our work and we do quality work, but this is your vision. We're just here to help kind of articulate that and put that on paper for the town of Clayton. When we look at a comprehensive plan, we had a steering committee consisting of local volunteers, leaders, council members, community members, various organizations, whether they be nonprofits or other cultural entities. They all helped us. We had steering committee meetings throughout the course of this process as we developed the plan, looked at the data, would bring that back, and we bounce these ideas off everyone to make sure we're hitting the right notes. Again, making sure we're articulating what the town wants, not what we want. And representation covered the geography of the whole town, the whole area. Stakeholders, one-time meetings. We came in here, we had a whole series of meetings one day where these are focused meetings. We want to talk to folks that have various viewpoints in the community, whether it be residents, nonprofit agencies, utilities, housing experts, really give us some deep insight into various topics of town. That really helps us formulate our goals as well. And then we talked to the community, we did online surveys, went to various concerts in the park and had a virtual meeting platform to help gather all that input. We can go to the next slide. Plan components, the next part, if we go to the next slide. This being an Okra funded plan, what you'll see is that there's 13 topics or subject areas. Those are all required per state statute, or excuse me, how the Okra funding works and the state, how they administrate it. It's not state statute. And we have to basically, we want to make sure we hit and talk about all those, but naturally, some areas and towns bubble up to the surface and are more important than others. And that's part of that whole community engagement process that we went through. If we go to the next slide. Before we really develop any goals and objectives, though, we like to codify what's called a vision statement. I'm not going to read that whole thing out loud. Nobody wants to hear me do that, in all honesty. But really what this is we want to encapsulate in a general way what we thought and what we heard back so that this kind of guides the formulation of the whole plan. This is something we do really close to the beginning. And I think the bold part at the bottom there really encapsulates what we heard. We want to ensure that Clayton's evolution honors its past while embracing a future of opportunity and connectivity for all who call it home. We very much heard that we want Clayton to stay very much the way it is, evolve as it needs to, be courteous, be kind to visitors that come to the downtown area and shop here, but definitely want to see Clayton remain Clayton. That was pretty clear throughout this process. Goal statements, we do these a little bit differently than other firms in that we like to have, in this case, 5 general goal statements that are run throughout the whole plan. This is how we tie the plan together from section to section. These goals, not everyone hits every topic area per se, but at least a couple of these or more should weave through those, and they're called out in the plan. But the goals you can read here, we want to diversify the housing market while preserving the rural character. We have a little more information on that in a few slides. We'll strengthen institutional and administrative structures, upgrade and expand transportation infrastructure, incentivize local reinvestment, redevelopment, in particular downtown, and then revitalize the town center. So major objectives, I mentioned that some topics of those 13 do bubble up and become a little more important than others. These are the ones that really hit home from our engagement activities. Housing, we want to cater different housing types and variety. A lot of this was folks either that are maybe want to downsize but want to stay in the area. Their kids are graduating out of school, but they also want to live here. Making sure there's enough housing variety to support all those. But we're not talking about, and I want to make sure because it's one of the other themes, that we're not talking about a lot of growth. We're not talking about greenfield development per se. It's really just about providing a little bit more of a mix so that folks that have called Clayton their home for a long time can continue to do so. And then design the infrastructure around that to promote how that happens. And then get folks out there, utilizing the regional trails that are either planned or coming to the area to help bikers and folks find Clayton and maybe spend an afternoon here. Economic development really revolved a lot around that same theme. Working to support the local businesses, the ones that are here, those entrepreneurs that are investing in the local restaurants, and maybe capturing some folks from out of town to help support those if on busy afternoons, Saturdays, things of that nature. And then transportation, a lot of what we heard involved the state road. A lot of what we heard also talked about pedestrian connectivity, cyclist community, supporting those infrastructures as they evolve over time, in particular to get between schools, parks, the community centers, other places of interest. I mentioned how this plan ties very much to zoning. The main link between those elements is what's called the future land use map. We've shown on this slide here. The different colors you could see in the legend. It might be a little hard to read on this side, but basically shows where the community thought land uses should remain in place or potentially change over time. In all honesty, there's not a lot of changes shown on this map. What we did based on what we heard is create sort of overlay character districts, and you see those with the slotted slash areas. These are areas where were identified there. If there was going to be any new development, it would mostly be infill. So taking an old lot that's vacant that maybe could be repurposed, or parking lot perhaps, and turning it into a building or new structure to provide some of those housing units we talked about. Could be multifamily. And I want to make sure I say in this plan, multifamily doesn't mean large-scale apartments or anything like that. We're talking about townhomes, maybe duplexes, things like that that are very much the rule in character with what's going on here in the town area and right around it. Single-family residential growth in those like kind of light yellow areas where there are lots available, but not really pushing out beyond the town boundary too much. And then revitalization was a key theme, just making sure the structures, the buildings are still adequate, still occupied here in the town center and other areas, that they're still utilized and still used. Critical path strategies. I mentioned there's 13 different sections in here. Each one of them has their own objectives and strategy statements. At the end of the process, you get potentially 70 to 80 of those. What we like to do for our implementation section is boil that down into the ones that we've heard are the most important, the ones you might want to take on or try to do in the next, say, 0 to 5 years. And we call those critical path strategies. They're at the end of the plan, and they typically have a little more detail towards how do you implement those, what are those action steps that you want to take. In this plan, we came up with a few, or approximately 8, and we have them shown here on the slides, kind of 2x2 fashion. One of them, focus on infill development. We know growth pressure from east heading west was a concern. We made sure that our future land use map and the plan didn't really encourage or embellish that at all. Really, if there's going to be growth, we think it should be on infill lots, vacant properties, redevelopment, those things, and work with the administration and developers to create design plans to help implement that. What that means is maybe folks need help with architecture or architectural plans, building rehab plans to help make that happen and foster that effort forward. The second critical path strategy is once a plan like this is wrapped up, you're going to want to look at your zoning ordinances, your subdivision ordinances, and make sure the ideas that are represented in here are also in your code, just to make sure that they're easily implementable. And this has 2 real important features to it. And they both focus on predictability. 1, encouraging any sort of new construction where you want it, and 2, making sure your ordinances are set up so it doesn't happen where you don't want it. If we go to the next slide. The second set of critical path strategies investigate a transition to a centralized water system. Throughout the process, we heard a little bit about people on their own wells and the potential to hook up to the town's facilities. This is just something we're recommending that people investigate and look more into to see if there's some potential there. We understand, wells work pretty well in town, and there's a pretty good aquifer here, so they might not need to do this right away. It's more about ensuring that the demand and efficiency is there to help improve the overall health of the system, and for anybody that might need it if they have some issues, coming up with a plan to help implement that now instead of if it ever was a problem in the future is really the idea here. Implement a wayfinding and signage plan. What that's all about is other communities, maybe you've seen they have signs with little arrows that point to the park here, town center here, and they have like the community's logo on top of it. That's kind of what we're talking about, is just coming up with a unified plan to help get people around town, especially those bikers and those other visitors that might come to the area on a weekend to visit the antique store or the local restaurants, and basically direct them around town. But it's also branding. It's a way to just show who you are, that, hey, you're in Clayton, it's a nice little community, come back please, we'd love to see you again. We go to the next slide. Create a marketing campaign for the town. This is a little bit related to the one before it, but just maybe a little bit more of a branding campaign to help. Again, this is more about bringing in visitors to support local businesses, not really trying to push a lot of growth or new development, just about ensuring that enough folks are coming in town to support those local entrepreneurs as they continue to invest in the town area and redevelop different buildings. Zoning adjustments to encourage affordable housing. What we're talking about here is just making sure lot size requirements, setback requirements all those things allow the new homes to be built to be of a certain size and potentially be affordable. That could be duplexes, that could be townhomes. I want to make sure we're not necessarily talking about subsidized housing. That's not where we're at. We're just talking about making sure the homes are sized appropriately and built appropriately so that you can accommodate a range of different price points, essentially. Develop a sidewalk and trail expansion plan. I know a lot of this has been discussed. Some trails are already in works or being discussion. We did hear a lot about we'd like to see just a well-connected community for pedestrians, for children to get to school. So really thought developing an expansive plan that really started to show where all those links could be, should be, and then start implementing it through capital improvement planning was something the town really was interested in. So we want to make sure that's one of our upfront goals. And then develop a parks master plan. It's a little chicken and egg in that you need to create a parks board first before you do that. But developing a 5-year parks and recreation master plan is a requirement of IDNR. And the reason you'd want to do that is it makes you eligible for something called Land and Water Conservation Fund grants, which are 50-50 matching grants for all variety of park improvements. But here in Indiana, IDNR will not let you apply for those unless you have a plan like this. So if it can help you with big planning or infrastructure projects in your parks. I believe they just increased the grant amount to $750,000. You have to match that 50-50, but if you have your match, that's how far you can go up to it. So based on what we heard, the parks are really loved here in Clayton. People want to have those facilities last a long time. That's just one way to help make sure that happens. And so that's kind of the quick overview. I know that there's a lot more information in the plan. There's a lot more data that went into it, but that's the general synopsis of what's in there and kind of those final implementation strategies. We're doing questions after.
So, I mean, we haven't formally called it a public hearing yet, so we need to open that, right?
Yeah.
All right, so you want to take care of that, Nick?
Yeah, I'd like to open up the floor to public hearing for comments or questions. Do we have any?
All right, I will. Sure, glad you come up.
You don't necessarily have to. You can stand up and ask her.
Hi, I'm Miss Bignell, and I'm the owner of Miss B's Teas, and as a resident of Clayton and as a business owner here in the town center, I think this plan is something that would really help local business owners to meet some of the goals that they had talked about in this comprehensive plan of revitalizing the town, of making sure we have places for families to come and enjoy and be able to stay in town. So I just wanted to offer my support as both a resident and as a business owner in town for this plan.
Is there anybody else? Okay, we'll close the public side questions.
Okay.
And then, as far as our board goes, is there any questions from any of our members or anything concerns? Okay. Then can I get a motion to accept the book as is?
I'll make a motion that we accept the plan as is.
I'll second it. Oh, I'm sorry.
So Bob Noss seconded it
Okay,
while you were
okay.
seconding it also, but
All in favor?
I,
All opposed? Okay, we approved it, and we'll close that meeting and turn it over to town council. Correct?
okay, so our plan commission meeting is concluded, and so you were recommending to the town council to adopt this comprehensive plan. Thank you very much for the hard work on all the different aspects of this comprehensive plan. I know it's been kind of a long year in the process and lots of meetings that were happening, lots of writes and rewrites and things that came up that we didn't know about that.
Yep.
So, but, all right, so we will call to order our town council meeting. And our first item on the agenda will be deal with this comprehensive plan. So anybody on the town council have any questions on the recommendation from the plan commission to adopt this comprehensive plan? This has been on our, posted on our town website for 2 weeks now. So everybody had hopefully the opportunity to review it. All right, no questions? All right, I need a motion to adopt.
I make a motion that we update the comprehensive plan.
All right, I got a first motion,
I'll second.
got a second motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, we will adopt our comprehensive plan. Thank you very much.
Jenny, you have a resolution? Do you have a resolution for tonight? Perfect, that's
The one
nice.
that
Okay,
was-
thank you.
Yes.
All right. Pass that down to Jenny,
The
please.
exact same one if you'll sign too, just so I can take one with me and submit.
You got it. Sign the one. That one to Jenny also, thank you. All right, next item on our town council agenda is
Okay,
to
thank you.
our last month, we had 2 meetings, so we have meeting minutes to approve as well as a claim docket. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to review those documents.
I make a motion that we accept the claim dockets and the meeting minutes from last month.
Okay, got a first motion, got a second motion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, minutes accepted, the claim docket. All right, first item on the town council agenda, estimates for town parking lot. Pete?
Okay, you guys got your copies?
Yeah.
We got 2, Moran Excavating and JR Rentals. If you look at Moran's, the highlighted area, that was for hooking up to the existing sewer line, 65 feet
Yeah.
approximately from where they need to hook up over to the, what would that be, this corner of the lot, in case you want to put a bathroom in the future. That way you don't have to dig up 65 foot of already compacted ground and gravel and all that other stuff. You know, and it'll resettle and all that good stuff. But Mr. JR, he didn't put that on his estimate, and I got with him, or got with his wife, she runs the office, a week ago, and give her the exact dimensions and what needed to be done. And she said he wanted to physically come out and look at it, and he's never got back with me on that. So if you take his bid and Tony's is 1,900 for adding that sewer line in there. So he's only, what, 23.4, and the other one's 23.278 minus the 1,900. But I don't know how much he wanted to do that, because he hadn't got back with me.
All right, any questions from town council board members on these 2 bids? Now, these 2 companies were also ones that bid for us back in the fall.
Yes,
And the same questions were asked for them then,
yeah,
and then you,
I
when
don't-
you got back with them, you just asked them to redo
yeah,
the bids.
right. And I guess JR just forgot to put that in there.
So the
Like-
official vernacular for that is, it was not a responsive bid.
Right,
So technically, that's, I mean,
yeah,
you have to look at that bid as he didn't comply with all the directions
Right.
that was asked.
and plus if you added it, say it was 1,900, you added it on, it'd be quite a bit higher.
Tom, you started to say something?
No.
Okay.
Was you mumbling?
Yeah.
Anybody have any other questions or thoughts on this parking lot work across the street?
I see a lot of the stone and stuff that he's bringing in. I don't see anything here that says that he's gonna level that off. It kind of slopes, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's an obvious slope downhill towards the blue house to the east.
I'm just wondering if that's not gonna be a problem with that slope.
No,
And runoff going into their property.
I could go get his old bid, I have that, and it was in the old bid.
Yeah, I mean, technically, we can't allow him to
Right,
set it up where runoff purposely goes onto somebody else's property.
Right.
So we have to make sure that that's part of it.
Right.
But I do remember him having that included in the other bid about
Yeah.
drainage.
right.
There is storm drainage on Michigan in that area, so it shouldn't be too hard to
Right,
make sure to divert the water into the storm drainage instead of
right.
into somebody else's property.
And the only difference I seen between the two, as far as the tree stumps, JR was gonna grind them off and Moran's gonna dig them out.
Should we postpone this until he puts on there that he's gonna?
We could, yeah.
I think I'd like to have that in writing, that he knows that he's gonna,
Yeah.
level that off and.
When that
and
give JR,
put it into
that would give
the storm-
JR a chance too to,
The storm, water
mhm.
runoff. I think I'd like to have it all put in here.
Yeah, we definitely want to make sure that stormwater's not gonna go flood that lady's basement over there, so.
Yeah.
We'll table this and ask Pete to get more clarification from the bids,
Right.
on, drainage and leveling and that kind of stuff. I mean, it doesn't have to be a level parking lot, but it has to be in there, what's the plan for water running
Right.
downhill?
Right. And I think we looked at that the drain's down at that end too, and down at the low end. Closest, yeah. So it'd have to kind of slope towards the road and be built up a little higher so it didn't run over into her yard,
Yeah.
Or, purposeful, catch down
Right.
at that end,
Right. If we
to
ever
divert the water.
get along and get it paved, then we can make it even better.
Right. All right, we'll table that until next month, and have Pete ask for more clarification on the drainage and slope. All right, since you're up here, Pete, you might as well talk on the next item on the agenda, which is the access road to the sewer treatment plant.
Okay, I've had several discussions with James. He said he bought a 1/4 acre off the town in 2019 for $4,700. So that would make an acre about 18,800. So we tried to figure in inflation between 19 and 24, and we kind of agreed on 20,000 an acre, and we need a third to widen the road, which would come up actually $6,666, and he come up with 6,600 even, is what his offer was, what he wanted for a third.
And what's that make the driveway all the way across?
And that'll make it 22 feet wide.
22 feet wide?
Yeah.
Okay. And that would be property limit to property limit?
Yes, yes. The existing road there's 11, so I just measured over 11 and measured the length, which is 1,260 feet, and it's a little over a third of an acre, but we settled on a third.
But then we would not have like much of a shoulder,
No,
okay.
no. No, I thought about that too, if we wanted to go maybe 24 feet on that side instead of 20, or not 24, 14 instead of 11, to give us room on both sides, but that would make it even more. But there's plenty of room with 22 feet.
Yeah, I was thinking our collector streets here in town are less than 22 feet.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think it seems like 22 feet would be significant enough.
I mean,
for
you
us.
could easily pass with
And it's-
dump trucks or
yeah,
whatever.
Okay.
And we're not expecting that to be a heavily traveled road. It's just something that we want access to our wastewater treatment
Right,
plant.
and then that would lock in for in the future, down the road, who knows what's gonna happen in 20 years.
I was just trying to get a mental image of
Right.
how much space.
Now, to make this official, though, we still have to have,
Have surveyed and-
and an estimate by, an appraiser, and then, paperwork drawn up, and then it would have to go to a title company. Correct, Judy? Yeah, this has to go to a title company since she used to do that, so.
Yeah,
But, he
long
could,
time ago, right?
but say, they say it's appraised at $8,000, but he can still sell it to you for whatever he wants then.
Yeah,
Yeah, he can sell it for less.
Yeah,
Banks would frown on it if he sold it for more, but,
yeah.
yeah, he can sell it for less than what
Yeah.
the appraised value is.
yeah.
The town would be getting.
Plus, he give us the 11-foot,
Yeah.
so.
All right, so next steps are to get a formal, survey and appraisal of that
Okay,
section, and then, draw up the appropriate paperwork to be able to take to a title company for a sale.
okay.
If everybody's in agreement to move forward with that. We wouldn't, so we're not formally approving the purchase yet.
Right,
We're
right.
just asking you to
Just
move forward.
proving to go forward.
The next steps on getting us to that point.
Yeah.
All right, anybody else got any questions on that section of? And then we would be able to add that street into our inventory for motor vehicle highway, funds and things like that when that eventually
Mhm.
comes to a close. All right, very good. Next item on the agenda, body camera storage. Dave Ernst, you had,
Okay, I did some research on that. And while we can get an on-premise solution, which means a system that's, the data is stored here, there's a lot of complications to that in a way. And a majority of your larger municipalities around here that have body cameras are using cloud storage, which means they partner with the company that sells the camera to do all the storage, and they provide X amount of terabytes with a package that you purchase. They also provide backup services. And where the storage part gets complicated is you have to have so many days of backup of everything, and then you have to have a backup of that. And then if there's a court case where there's body camera footage used in the court case, and if that court case draws out for years, you have to retain backups of that footage in case they want to go back and get the original. So the research I did on it, whatever, is kind of was all pointing away from doing it yourself, storing the data. I reached out to the Indiana Sheriff's Association, and I've got 2 names from Axon and Motorola to contact. Give those to Thomas so he can contact them, and then just have Thomas kind of work on this through that end. So that's about all I have to report so far. I tried reaching out to Indiana University to find out what they used, and I couldn't get anybody to respond to me back. So that's all I have.
okay. Anybody got any questions for Dave on that?
I will say it's not, from everything I saw, it's not cheap. And there are grants out there too, so I'm just gonna start digging into the grant programs that the different companies have. Not companies, but that are offered. Federal government has one, and so see if there's somehow we could make a bid for that to help fund it. That's it.
Okay. All right, very good. On to the next item on the agenda. Fire department contract with the township trustee. So I've had a couple of interactions back and forth with email with Mr. Butler. He has agreed to the number that you get with our current tax rate in Liberty Township versus what town property owners pay. And that rate times our assessed value, and that comes out to $17,030. So we did, with our communication back and forth, he did agree to that number. Parts that we haven't come to an agreement on yet, he's still leaning towards that 4-year contract idea, which I'm not a big fan of that. One, if it's based on tax rate and valuation, that changes every year. So to me, doesn't make much sense to lock in a number for 4 years if the, if that rate can change every year. So it seems like I don't know, we're locking ourselves into something that, really should not be locked in that mindset. So that's just my opinion on that. You guys are welcome to weigh in on what you think on that part. And then the other part is my reason for not wanting a 4-year contract is when we had more participation from the fire department in these meetings, it was very helpful. I felt like we knew, some things that were going on in the fire department. They knew what was going on in the town. And so I think if we have a 4-year contract, we won't hear from them for 4 years. So that's just my own personal hesitancy in that. So I would like to see a 1-year contract and ask that part of that agreement is that they resume coming to these meetings and giving us a monthly report. That's just kind of my spin on that. I shared that with Mr. Butler, so I'm not too sure what his feedback is going to be on that, but I just wanted to give you guys an opportunity to hear what I've talked about so far and see what you had on that part. Any questions on that 4-year contract idea?
I think that's just common sense for both sides.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think, why would they wanna be locked in where they might get more tax money than, we're thinking it might be less, but I think the 1 year is the way to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
I agree.
All right, I will let him know that when I reach out to him again. The other part that we didn't come to an agreement on was the money spent on the building. He's still pushing for, in our contract, he wants us to agree that we will spend $25,000 over the next 3 years on the fire station building here in town, as far as improvements and those kinds of things. My communication to him was, from my understanding, when Mr. Bellamy was here in January, he said the building was not something to be considered part of our contribution, so I didn't feel like he could dictate to us what to spend on that. I do think the town, I think we want to spend money on that building. I just don't, we want to accommodate the firefighters that are there now 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with this change. But it's just, to me, that should be, us working on, plans and ideas and things that we're trying to do to fix the station. And it may be more than 25,000, maybe less than 25,000, just depending on what kinds of needs are happening at the building. So just my own personal thoughts. I don't know if you guys have feedback on that.
Does all of the money to improve that building, does that have to come from the town? Can it come from, donations, fundraisers that the fire department have? I mean, can some of that money be done that way? It doesn't just have to come from the town's.
Correct, and that's, I mean, not to go off on a tangent too much, a couple weeks ago, I went to a meeting up at the county offices, met with, the Department of Local Government Finance Commissioner, as well as, a couple other county, officials of Paula Alkiri. She's the finance auditor. So, she does a lot of grant writing. And she kinda took me aside and was like, hey, let's talk about writing some grants for Clayton's emergency, services, so fire, EMS, police, all that kind of stuff. So she had lots of great ideas. She feels like, and I told her, I said, well, one thing that Clayton's run into in the past with trying to write grants is our household income, our median household income is $76,000 a year, so it's higher than what most of these places consider, you know, a place that they want to write grants for. But she thought, and her idea, which she's been doing this for quite a few years up there, is work with EMA and the county's grant writing, and then they would basically procure the grant through the county for us. And she thought that we might have a better shot at getting some grants that way. So I told her I'm willing to, you know, entertain this, you know, as much as you want. So we have just kind of an idea to get together and meet and talk. She felt like EMA's kind of got their hands full right now with the eclipse coming up. So she said, let's meet after the eclipse happens and then start brainstorming some ideas. One of the ideas that she had, and I don't know how everybody feels about our municipal advisor, she thought entertaining the idea of getting a different municipal advisor that has a more personable relationship with small towns might be helpful. She said there sometimes the bigger firms, you know, overlook some of our needs, and a more local firm. So I don't know how everybody thinks about that idea of should we look at that possibility of getting a Hendricks County advisor firm to help us out with stuff. So.
Doesn't hurt to look.
Right.
Right.
So that was kind of a tangent off there, but I felt like since you brought up grants, that might help to shed some light. My meeting up there was actually very informative. Talked not only to the DLGF commissioner, but Nicole Lawson. She wants to talk to Pete and I about how to get better funding for the town through our building planning and building permits that we do. She felt like we were missing out on some things, so they all kind of, you know, basically rallied around me and said, hey, let's start working on some things to help Clayton out. So I was pretty happy with the meeting up there. So, but all right, so back to the fire department contract with the township trustee.
I have one question.
Go ahead.
Were there any needs for the facility prior to there were made to us prior to the formation of the township fire department? So
Sort of. I mean, I know, when was that we went over there and kind of did that walkthrough with Chief Russell? Like, before they did the furnace and air conditioner upgrade. It was like last summer, wasn't it?
then I met with him a couple weeks ago.
Right, but I'm saying pre-May of '23, were there any needs vocalized from them that the building needed?
We've got plenty now.
Well, right, but those just didn't pop up since
Yeah, I don't
May
know.
of '23. You know.
Didn't they ask for garage doors or something?
We've been providing funding for garage door repairs, furnace repairs, air conditioning repairs, other things.
Yeah, in 2018, we put a new roof on the station. In 2020, we were going to do a new furnace, but then Chief Moffett was in charge at that time. He asked for us instead to do the garage door openers, the 4 garage door openers and remotes. And so we did that. And then last year was when Bill Collins put in a new furnace and AC unit.
I understand what you mean now.
So those are some things that we've been doing ongoing, I guess, but the one big switch that I think, well, I don't know if everybody's aware, before, when they were the volunteer fire station and they were doing paid standby, their paid standby times were from 8 a.m. to midnight. So nobody stayed overnight at the station. They weren't paying anybody for doing that, so they would go home at midnight. With the township trustee taking over, they're essentially asking these personnel now, the 3 people on shift are gonna be there 24 hours. So they, they're for breakfast, lunch, dinner, bunk time, all that stuff. So there is a different need over there because of that. I mean, obviously, if you're forcing personnel to stay for a 24-hour shift, you've got to provide certain things, amenities in the building to accommodate them. I don't know what the makeup of their shifts are, but if they have both male and female personnel, they can't bunk in the same room, they can't shower in the same shower. I mean, those kind of things. So there's definitely a different need in that building now that we have a 3-person crew that's over there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we just to kind of paint that picture of this is something that we need to start working on, fixing up the building for things. Again, my only hesitancy on what Mr. Butler's asking is that specific number, the 25,000. So, I mean, I think that because this building, as was communicated in January, wasn't considered part of our contribution, that should not be part of what they can dictate on as far as money goes. That's just my opinion.
So,
Right, and wouldn't it be, if they wanted something done to the building, since it's owned by the town, wouldn't it be the town, Pete, going out, getting the estimates for what needs to be done for them, not them getting the estimates and coming to us and telling us what contractor they've decided to use and so forth?
I mean, I can see both sides. I think obviously if they got a contractor to do an estimate, then Pete's job would be to verify that with another couple of, especially if it's a $101,000. I mean, $101,000 means we're gonna need 3 separate bids on this work. And so,
Sealed bids.
yeah, so
Sealed bids.
that's obviously, it's good to have a point to start from.
Right, you understand
Yeah.
what I'm saying, though,
Yeah, sure.
it's a town property, therefore the town will pursue what's needed, the bids, and so forth.
Yeah, I would look at this, to me, I guess, as a starting point of, okay, here's what the work that they want to happen is. And then we take the approach of, okay, we'll go in and do our own assessment, get our own 3 contractors to come in, give us sealed bids, and then figure out what can we start tackling now, what do we have to put off till next year. I mean, we have $5,000 in the account for, you know, maintenance on that building. It's not gonna touch the
So we just need to come up with
101,000.
100.
What? Right,
And this,
So-
to me, it doesn't really, I mean, it tells that, you know, they're wanting drywall hanging and blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't say, we want 8 showers, 4 toilets, you know, this is what we're working for. We want a 10 by 12 room for the women and a 10 by 12 room for the men, and it just is a bunch of,
Basically, when I talked to him, they was wanting to switch the entire upstairs around. And they wanted to go with 2 sinks instead of 1, different, you know, just change everything. And that's why it's so high,
yeah.
one thing, but in his
It would be
email-
nice to have a little bit of a blueprint that shows what they're,
And
what
today's
the
point,
idea of
the
what
town
it
should have a little
was.
bit of input on how it's gonna be done and how it's gonna be designed.
yeah.
Well, I'm kinda, back to my mind, if you, the building's ours, or anybody that owns a big building or something, people, or the fire department's in there, kinda like a leasee or whatever. They fix it up the way they wanna fix it up in there, but you still own the building. I don't, me as the building owner, don't give them the money to remodel the building the way they want it remodeled in there for their usage. I don't know if that applies towards them staying overnight and with extra beds and showers and stuff. But that just seems to be that, you know, just example like the restaurant down there. You know, she moved in, they remodeled it and everything, but the guy that owned the building, that was his, you know, so. It wasn't his idea which way they remodeled.
alright, so kind of 2 different, subjects here to address. First, my understanding is to go back to the township trustee with that, you know, the $17,030 is the acceptable amount for this year, and that we want a 1-year contract, and that we want the fire department to participate in these town council meetings by giving us a monthly report. And then we will have, you know, negotiations for the 2025 year coming up, and, you know, make sure that that gets in our budget. And then that we're not excited about the idea of a 4-year contract just because the rate can change. And then that we wanted to look at the building as a separate issue. There's obviously lots of things to address there, but we will, you know, start working on, you know, getting some estimates and 3 sealed bids from contractors on, you know, proposed work. And then spend money based on what we can figure out to appropriate for that. Does that sound like?
I think you need to have some sort of a blueprint that you can show to these 3 people that says,
He just sent
this is
to me
what, yeah.
yesterday, and if you look at it, they're charging labor cleanup, final cleanup of office. You know, there's a whole bunch of stuff in there. You'd think the contractor would absorb that, you know.
I agree, you need some specifications to be able to issue solicit bids.
Is this something that, like, would Banning Engineering have a department that would be able to head this up as well, help you out with, you know, deciding what's appropriate to address immediately, short-term, long-term, that kind of stuff, or is that?
I suppose I'd call Mark, you know.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a necessary step, but just that,
Yeah.
I don't know, you know, 3 construction contractors that work on fire stations, maybe Banning Engineering does. I don't know, does that
Yeah.
sound like an appropriate step, or does anybody think we should use a different route?
I don't know.
It's no big deal, he's pretty.
Alright, so let's reach out to Mark at Banning Engineering, just ask him, you know, is this something that you guys have a department that can address this, or, you know, do we need to find somebody else to, help us out with this, or, and then take that next step of, you know, we have 3 crew members that are assigned to this station 24/7, and we need to make the building appropriate to accommodate them, and then see where they go. All right, I will contact Mr. Butler and start and convey that information back to him and see where we can get with that.
And you want this 17,000 paid now?
The $17,030 will be part of the agreement, so I wouldn't pay it until we have an actual signed
Right.
agreement with them.
Well, you had talked about them coming to town council meetings and kind of like paying them monthly.
I mean, yeah, I think if that's a possibility, I don't know, I didn't go that far yet, just because we still have, I feel like we have a lot of negotiations to hammer out, but my own personal thought is something to, you know, motivate the fire department. Personnel from the fire department should be here every month, give us a monthly report, and if they're not here, then they've, you know, not provided us detailed information about what they're doing with our money, and that they've forfeited it for that month.
Well, I have to do an additional appropriation anyway,
Yeah,
because we didn't appropriate money for it this year.
correct. And the additional appropriation means a public hearing again.
And is that something we're gonna have to pass every year, the funding of the, I don't know how to say it, the portion of funds that we're not paying to the township for fire, so the town has to pay that portion of fire, is that something we're gonna have to pass every year? Or
Well,
agree
it should be in our
Well, we put
budget,
it in the budget.
so
Well,
if
we put it in the budget, but
Right, if we-
we have
so
to
in-
vote on it year after year after year after year.
just like when we pass our budget,
Okay.
if that's in there, budget line item
So
says
then
this is what we're giving to the township trustee for fire and EMS
So
coverage.
that makes it official.
Yeah,
Okay.
so then, but we didn't do that this last budget season, just because we didn't know that that was a request, so requires an additional appropriation now, since we're after the fact, but. Okay, any other questions, thoughts on that? Go ahead.
Just one more question, Pete, you might ask them if they're planning on expanding more. I mean, right now, we're just thinking there's 3 people staying there 24 hours. They might have in the works that they're trying to get 3 more people. So if we plan on having a bedroom for 3 people, in another year, we're gonna have to get another bedroom for 3 more people. So see if they have, you know, something that they're working on expanding.
How many did you notice when we was up there, about the air conditioning? They had one whole side that was sleeping quarters.
Yeah, they have one bunk room, and there were 5 beds in that bunk room. Well, I know, I mean, Jennifer Weekly is a firefighter, paramedic, and an officer. I don't know how often she is assigned a shift, and I don't know of any others myself, but I don't know their whole duty roster, kind of an idea, so I don't know if they have others, but.
Somehow, the reasoning he was wanting to switch everything around was to get the sleeping quarters next to the stairway to save time. I don't know how much time that would save. But that was one of the reasons. Then he wanted to go to LED lighting and make the bathroom bigger with 2 sinks instead of 1 and stuff like, which I could see that.
Well, and I don't have any problem with the requests that they're making, it's just a matter of with that amount of money that we're looking at,
Yeah,
there's
that's
gotta be 3 bids and they have to be sealed bids. I mean, that's just the way that the law is spelling out for us, so, you know, we just have to figure out how to address that. And, you know, maybe we get a couple of contractors that actually come in there and say, I don't know why you'd wanna do this, here's what we should do instead. I mean, and maybe figure out a better, more efficient way to do it. That's one of the reasons you want separate bids, is you can get different ideas from different construction crews and different.
Well, we could save time by cutting a 36-inch hole with a 12 like they used to have years ago.
I don't know if OSHA allows that still or not.
I doubt it. Probably have to have a safety harness.
Probably so. All right, we'll continue on that, as best we can to get that resolved. Next is, new business. So donation letter from Mill Creek Community Schools. So they are, the school board is, having their annual all-staff recognition breakfast, and, would like to get a donation from the town. And we usually donate to them a certain amount each year.
I think 400 usually, there's 1,200 and, there's $1,250 in there.
We did 4 last year, 100.
$400 last year, okay? All right, any questions or comments or motions from board members? Do
I'll make a mo-
donate, anybody?
I'll make a motion that we send them $400.
Okay, got a first motion on $400 to the all-staff recognition breakfast.
I'll second that.
Got a second? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, very good. Contract with Runneman Farms for the 2.97 acres behind the wastewater treatment plant, or the
Slide
south.
that down again.
We have that? Okay.
Huh?
All right, Mr. Brenneman is offering us $400 for a cash rent of that acreage so he can farm it.
We'll just tell him to send it to Mill Creek.
Write that check here. Mill Creek Community School.
All right. So, in 2023, they also paid us $400 for this, so.
Yeah, what does it run? Doesn't it say on there, doesn't it expire in, Judy, what was? May, I think.
May 1st to May 1st, okay?
Out by the sewer plant. Is it 2 acres?
The 2.97, but he put 2.5 in his little letter, but, I mean, it's, what had happened 13 years ago, Mr. Penner and the town flip-flopped ownership of these 2 little parcels of land. So but Mr. Brenneman farms on it. He just grows his corn or soybeans or whatever he's growing out there.
Everyone to the
A
basement.
cash rent,
Rules.
is very common. Mr. Penner actually cash rents all of his farm.
Yeah.
He doesn't own any of it by himself, so he cash rents it to somebody else, so, but. All right, actually, his, letter is, that he'd like for this $400 agreement, to be accepted for the next 4 years. So, is everybody okay with a 4-year contract with Mr. Brenneman on that? It would be $400 each year for the next 4 years.
I don't have no problem with it. Before, we didn't even know we was doing it. So,
Anybody
We
got?
need a motion?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we accept Brenneman's proposal for $400 for the next 4 years.
Okay, got a first motion?
I'll second.
Got a second motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, very good. We will go ahead and accept that from him. All right, Jenny, next item is cash in CD.
We have a local road and street and CCI CD that's up in April, and this year I think it brought in $111 altogether, but it's a pain in the rear end on the year-end report. So I just wondered if it was okay if I cashed it in and put the money back in the local road and street and CCI account. They don't
Yeah.
send the money to us, they just automatically turn around and put it back into the CD.
Sure.
But the general fund, they send us a check every year, and it's about $210 a year.
Okay,
So I think it's 10,400 altogether. So it's not a whole lot of interest. That's up to you.
are there other investments that we do with our reserve funds that are,
We have a $14,000 CD in the general fund, and these are both at PNC. And then the CCI and the local road and street. That's all we have. We cashed in the other ones.
okay,
But I just wanted you to think about it before it comes due.
Because in April, PNC isn't gonna offer this type of CD, so we're gonna have to do something.
Yeah. We're gonna have to either reinvestment some other way or something.
well, and I
Or we
mean,
could see about getting something in North Salem State Bank, which,
see, the way I understand the state rules about this, you get to decide how
oh,
the
wow.
extra funds are reinvested or invested in. I mean, you could even like figure out if you were working the stock market, you could invest in the stock market. But the way I understand that anyway is that the rules allow you to decide that, and then
Oh,
you
well,
just have to report it to us. Here's how I invested our surplus.
Okay.
But I could be wrong. I don't know if that's, is there, do you remember any specifics on that?
I think that's generally right, yeah.
So the clerk treasurer's office gets to decide that reinvesting surplus or, you know, whether it's purchasing CDs or investing in a stock or a, you know, a long-term, you know.
Okay.
Jenny, it's the best in memories vacation.
Okay.
So you said you got about $200 in interest on
Two-
the
200 in the general fund, and not quite 100 or right at 100 in the local road and street and CCI.
And if we was to surrender these CDs 6 months from now, we need the money, how much penalty do you have to pay for that?
I don't know what the penalty is. That's why I thought in April, when it's up, then you don't have to pay a penalty
Yeah.
if you cash it in then.
I'm
'Cause
just
we can
thinking
always-
that the penalty would probably be just about as much as what you're getting in interest, so
Yeah,
it's not worth,
and probably more,
yeah, and not
Yeah.
worth
yeah.
holding.
So we need to do it in
CD.
April or wait till the next April.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would
Okay.
say sell it, but whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if they're, the return is so low on those that there's not, and
Well,
it's a hassle.
we did have one, local road and street, and the interest was like 8 cents a month, and I would get a check every month for like 8 cents. So we finally cashed it in.
All right. If you find something else to, you know, invest that money into surplus and
Okay,
make us more money, then
okay.
that's fine. All right. Next item on the agenda, Pete, you have the sewer project information for us.
Yeah.
Mr. Skirvin.
Somewhat. Josh from Banning Engineering and myself on the 6th, we went to Ron's, and Josh walked him through what we was wanting to do so he'd better understand. And we come to the conclusion that we get an appraiser, and that would have been Jason Lawson from Danville. So on the 12th, I contacted Ron again, thinking maybe I could get around the appraiser and just ask him if he'd come up with a dollar amount, and I'd present it to you guys. Either reject it or accept it. If you rejected it, then we'd bring in an appraiser. Well, Ron called me today and said that he needed to talk to his attorney more before he makes a decision. So that's where that's at.
Can we get this done before they start
I don't
the
know.
work?
Well, I mean, we can't start the work until we have the
Yeah.
Right, you gotta have to have an easement for it.
easement. I mean, we have an easement,
Because we don't.
but it's,
Right.
the whole issue here is they're wanting to move the pipe to a new spot, so we need a new easement, and they need a temporary easement because of all the heavy equipment that's gonna be over there doing that work.
Are they gonna bring in heavy equipment, get so far, and then then it's just gonna be stopped until we get this?
I don't think they can start at all, can they, till we have all
Yeah.
three?
I don't think we'd start anything because the design work's not been done yet. Because Banning's helping us with it, and they wanna make sure this is good before they put more money and work into actually designing it. So it's only hypothetically been designed at this point. So we're not wasting money.
And we feel like we exhausted all the options of going someplace other than across Mr. Skirvin's property.
And I had talked to him before, Josh over there, about what's the possibility, but it sounds like this is getting serious enough that he needs to look at it again, I think. Originally it was, hey, this is the best way to do it, we've kind of exhausted it, but kind of what Pete and I was talking about a while ago, probably wouldn't hurt to go back and talk to Josh again.
So, I mean, that just might be the
Right.
better thing to do here is just figure out a way to,
Yeah.
we're not gonna go
That's my
across this
thing.
private property anymore. We're gonna seal up the pipe that already goes there, and then we'll just
Yeah.
move someplace else and make it work in a different area. I mean,
I'll reach out to, I'll reach back out to Josh and tell him.
Okay.
yeah, just keep Pete in the
Yeah,
loop on
absolutely.
what you guys figure out, and we'll try to move forward with a solution that doesn't involve having to go across those yards.
All right.
Does anybody have any other, questions for Pete?
Pete and I talked before the meeting, Jenny had looked up for us a, sign to put across the street at the new parking lot. Because I think that people think that's private property and they're not parking there. So Jenny found a sign. Pete's gonna look to see if he can, find
Stellos,
the
You think
people
Yeah,
that do
Stella's
the
might
signs,
have- I don't know
the
that
signs
sign.
down at the park.
Mhm.
yeah.
And, get us a sign that says like public parking, something like that, so that we can put over there so that people know that
Right.
they're allowed to park there.
Yeah.
How big do you want that? Approximately, I mean, I'd have to call Stellos and see, but I think they can pretty much make whatever we need. Like a 3x5 or 3x4, or
Well, Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
I just know there should be something, and I don't know if it should be out on 39's side, or if it should be where the entrance of the,
Probably where everybody's driving in, right, for right now. That's where it's gonna be after it's done, right?
The sign that says public parking?
Yeah, visitor parking, public parking. Should that be on Michigan? Or kind of catty corner at,
just right at the corner.
yeah,
I mean,
Something.
like,
I guess, like, who are we hoping to catch attention on this? People on 39 or on Iowa that, oh, turn here for,
well, that's where
public
most of the
parking?
traffic's gonna be. That's like maybe,
right,
you know, if
so
we
if
had
we put it
it.
over on Michigan, are they gonna see it on Iowa and go, oh, I need to turn here to get into that parking lot?
Yeah.
Just get two. Just get two, one for 39, one for Michigan. Can't cost that much.
Yeah,
Yeah, you could put
Just
a
don't
little
get it
bit
on
larger
39.
one on 39, and then just
a
a
smaller
smaller one,
yeah,
there by the entrance that says parking entrance or something like that.
pull in here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, remember in our UDO, we have the vision on the triangle that's for an intersection, so you can't block view of
Right,
vehicles coming down the street.
Right.
So you have to figure out how to place this sign so that it's not violating our UDO and it's not gonna cause a traffic backup, and that kind of stuff, so.
high enough for a golf cart to go under. I'm just kidding.
Depends on the golf cart.
Yeah.
There's some fancy
I know.
golf carts in town.
Yeah, little man's.
Yeah. So, all right, so 2 signs, 3 by 5 for.
Well, that's
on Iowa,
debatable. I mean,
and
we,
then a small, little bit smaller
Yeah.
Yeah.
for over on Michigan.
yeah. Yeah, I'll call them and ask them. I'm pretty sure they can make those.
Okay,
And I got just 2 more points.
2 more
real quick.
points. We're gonna hold you to that.
Parks and recreations. I met with them Tuesday with a walkthrough down at the park. They're gonna bring a bridge across the southeast corner off of Tony's property, you know where that little creek is right there. And then they're gonna run the trail towards the sidewalks, towards the bathrooms, and then bring it back towards the east driveway, paved driveway. And they're gonna widen that paved driveway for more parking. And then they're gonna come up on Michigan, it'll come down Michigan, it'll go across in front of the businesses right here, and then go towards the trail where it's gonna continue to the middle of town.
Should we have painting on the roads? I know there are some places like, I don't know, Indianapolis that I've seen, that have a little place along the side of the road, and then it's got like a bicycle.
Oh, it's
It's like
for,
a bicycle lane or something.
yeah, well,
Well, and I think that their grant stops at the park as the trailhead, and that
Right.
when they talk about coming this way, they're
Yes,
talking about future plans.
yes.
Okay, so that's
This is,
not.
right now, this project stops
At
at
Michigan,
Lambert Park.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
And then goes.
And then they're
towards
gonna go
Amo.
back towards Amo.
Right, so
Because,
the other part of the conversation was just about, hey, this is what we'd like to do in the
Okay.
future.
yes,
So that was all
Right.
hypothetical.
yes, but that was discussed. That was.
Sorry, yeah, I just wanted to make sure to
And,
clarify.
and the reason they're doing that is because they got at I believe it's 250 West, there's one landowner that's holding out. So they thought they would do this project instead of coming from Amo this way, so they got more time to negotiate with that person.
Okay.
And then, did they come up with an agreement? I know we talked about when they start going parallel with 500 South, are they going right over the top of our new sewer pipe, or are they going next to it?
It looks to be on top of it. I'm just gonna bring that up. I talked to the lady, this last week it was, sent her the information, because I talked to Banning. He didn't see any interference issues, but I sent all the information over to her, so it's back in their hands. I did stop because I seen them digging out there, and I said, hey, you know, you're right on top of a force main right here. And he said, yeah, we're staying off of it, so they were digging. He said, I would've hit
mean, our assets are gonna be underneath it, but they aren't gonna prevent us from accessing our assets, so we need them. So, to me, it's kind of 6 1, half dozen of other.
Right.
We put the trail right over the top of it, we know nothing else is gonna block
Yeah.
our asset, because there's a trail right there.
Right.
There's the asphalt, so that, so, I mean,
So it's back in, from our standpoint, I think town standpoint, it's back into their hands. They have all the information that we have, and it's for them to figure out how to make it work.
very good.
And my last talking point. Leanne, you remember when you asked if we could add more lights down 39? John and I did the survey. We got all the ID numbers we need and everything. I tried to get a hold of Duke at that one particular department they have, and I always get a voicemail. So I called your buddy in Avon, and he said he would have someone email me, which so far I haven't got that yet. And the only reason I'm trying to get in touch with them now, because they told me I could talk to them when they come on and do the actual work. I want to make sure they're not going to charge us for the extra light fixtures and all that stuff in advance. Because we say go ahead, and then they say, okay, you owe us X amount of dollars.
Yeah.
You know. So that's my last talking point, and hopefully I'll get in touch with someone to give me an answer.
Well, they're gonna honor their bid that they gave us.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
I mean, so
with the original lighting, but
right.
Leanne wanted to see if we could add more lighting.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, I had a question, I asked, when we went to our, pastor training, last summer, we had gotten, some information about crack sealing, which we've never done in town, but they advised us it extends the life of a road by 2 years, and then chip and seal extends it by 8 years, so, have you heard back from your, contacts about the crack sealing?
No, Bob Bohr, when I called him, he had just got to Florida on vacation, and I told him to give me a call as soon as he got back, and I assumed he was gonna be gone a couple of weeks. And then there's one other one, he lives in Hazelwood. I haven't been able to get a hold of him yet. He's been busy, I guess. If I have to, I'll drive over there, see if I can get a hold of him. Now, the guy in Hazelwood could probably do the seal crack, but I'm not sure he could do, what we was talking about, the chip and seal. I'm not sure he could do that.
Okay.
But I thought I could get a cost between the two on that, just sealing the cracks. And then we may have to go to another contractor or find another contractor to do both.
Okay. That's all I had for questions. Anybody else got any other questions for Pete? Okay, thank you. All right, George, you're up.
I wanna be.
All right, so I think everybody has a nice little handy packet. So last time we talked about job descriptions, so Minnie and I worked crazy to come up with what we're currently doing. So first one's what the operator's doing, and the second one's the assistant operator. Just present these packets for everybody to digest, so I'm not expecting we go anywhere today with anything. It's just here's the way we see it and how we capture it. So the first two is what we're doing right now inside the fence of the property. We talked about, okay, what about taking on the responsibility outside the fence? So we said, okay, that would be a whole nother avenue, because once you start peeling those onions back and you get outside the fence, there's a whole lot of stuff that's gonna have to happen, that needs to happen. So it kind of just drafted up what would a job description look like if we were to go to that level. So we did one for a manager that would oversee all those wastewater treatment, the water collection, and the stormwater. So that's the draft of what we're kind of looking at. And then for just availability, I just kind of threw my resume of what I've kind of done over the last few years of my career to say, okay, how could we support that? That's kind of what that looks like. I'm not sure.
All right,
So
So something, homework for us.
So some homework, and then so the top page, I should have started there, I'm sorry. So the top page is just kind of the outline, so job description and their proposal, and then pending things that we're working on right now, just so we all have, we're on the same page, that we're working on the Reagan Street one that we just talked about. What are we gonna do with that? I'll get with Josh. We'll figure out, man, is there another way we can go? The future repairs, we've gone over all the maps. I've talked to GRW. We've tried to identify and get a good grasp on what really has been done and what needs to be done. So the work that got done in 2005 and in 22, we've got a map. We've highlighted all those areas. Future work, they've already identified in bullet point A. These are all the lines that they've already identified that still needs to be worked on that we didn't do originally because we just didn't have enough funding to do it. And then the manholes are listed out there. There's 16 of those that work needs to be done. So we already know there's a plethora of work to get done regardless of who does it, how we go forward with it. And then the sewer plant, we still really need to come up with some good planning down there on that, on, just upgrades of kind of what we've got now just to keep us going, maybe some modifications, and then just future growth. And I've talked to Banning. He's willing to come out and give us a hand on that from a more local standpoint. How do you see the community growing? How do you see, the whole area growing, so we can get some futuristic plans on where should we go with the sewer plant itself as far as growth, or so we're spending our money correctly. So.
On these trunk lines and
Uh-huh.
manholes that you have identified on here,
Yes.
with this outline, it doesn't really necessarily identify what work needs to be done. Do you have that already? So
Yeah, it's
you
all
know
in the,
what-
it's all in the asset management plan.
All right, so
So we can tell exactly what needs to be happening. Yeah.
like, is it a, simple rehab of a manhole, or is
Right.
it a complete, total
Right.
reconstruction, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they did a good job on putting all that together originally, so that effort's already been put in place.
Okay. Does any of your identification of future needs include more jet cleaning and camera inspections as well?
From what I could tell, they did all of that, and that's where this came from. So the jetting and lining came about to go through what I was thinking was all of them, but I need to get with GRW. That's the next line of defense. Where would we go? How much did they really do? I thought they did most all the lines, and that's how they come up with this, but I haven't talked to him yet
Right.
to find that out.
Yeah.
Was
If-
there a jet cleaning done earlier this week
No,
on Western?
no.
There was a jet cleaning truck on Western earlier this week. And then it moved down Western.
No, I've not, did you know of anything, Pete? No.
I don't know it was parked on this end for a
Yeah.
while. I don't know what they were doing. I just saw it out my window.
Mm.
And then later in the afternoon, they went on down, and they were parked down the other end for a little bit, but not long. I don't know if they ran any equipment or did anything at all,
So they weren't
but
doing
I
the
just thought
work.
it was odd. It was
Well, who
Yeah.
knows, because there's an 8-inch main that runs from, Brian, I can't remember his last name, but, from one of these houses across that a private resident put in back in the 90s.
Okay.
And Anthony's dad did the work for them, but it wasn't a pipe that the town paid for or put in, and it wasn't in our inventory. And when GRW started their work, and they were like, well, what's this pipe over here that's not, it wasn't showing up on
Wasn't
our
even on the
maps.
list, yeah.
And that's when we started researching it, and it was, one of the property owners over there put it in back in the.
On Western?
Yeah, it's across from the school, basically, and it.
On the backside of the
In front
school?
of those 3 houses that are along that side, and then it ends at that manhole, just before the culvert. So,
Brandon Richardson? The blue house?
yes,
Yeah.
but anyway, it was just kind of surprising when we found
Right.
that, cause they were like, yeah, so, Mason Private Locates didn't camera inspect it, they
Huh.
didn't jet clean it, because it didn't show up on our inventory.
Oh.
And then when, we were looking at it, we were gonna have Coley Contracting, when they were here, go over there, but from that manhole, it goes at a 45-degree angle and then it bends and without a clean out, because they didn't put it in properly. So they couldn't turn their cleaning equipment around that
Sure, that bend,
bend, so they just stopped working on it and said, we don't know what else to do. But
we're done. So-
anyway, it's just another
Yeah.
surprise part of some of
So that-
Clayton's assets over
Yeah,
there that.
and that's where I would see, if we go with, us taking care of everything, outside the fence and stuff, is to get all this stuff mapped. We talked about a camera system that, futuristic, it'd be nice to go and, just like you said, televise every line we've got, every manhole, even find the manholes that we couldn't find before,
Right, well, and,
starting
I've been looking at some
It's a lot
different
of
things
work.
also. Water Environment Federation,
Yeah.
they recommend jet cleaning and camera inspecting old pipes at least every 2 to 3 years.
yeah,
So I know this was done in 2019, 2020, the last
Right.
time it was done, so that's why I was just asking, do we have a future plan of doing those kinds of processes again
sure,
to preventative maintenance?
yeah,
Keep an eye on what's going on down there.
yeah,
The other thing was with just kind of looking at, February meeting, I was bragging about all the extra money we were gonna have in the sewer plant fund. And then I was like, wait, GRW's numbers were from 2020. So what's changed, and obviously our inflation issues, everything's gone up.
yeah,
So we paid GRW and them to do a rate study before our rate increase that we did. But there's actually a publication from this Water Environmental Federation that'll teach us how to do our own rate study, if you're interested.
Oh.
So I printed off the book title and stuff, and I didn't know if that was something, if you think this is valuable for the town to own, do our own rate study, see, what's our cost of doing business now
yeah,
with our wastewater treatment plant and our sewer collection system. Do we need to start increasing that? Obviously with, some of the increase in responsibilities we're asking for, is there an increase in, compensation that we need to come up with?
Right.
With this new role?
right,
So if we're looking at this possibility,
yep,
do we go off of numbers from 2020? Or do we redo another study? And I'd rather, if it's possible for us to do it ourselves,
right,
and come up with a number that makes sense, or do we pay,
sure,
Banning Engineering to do a rate study
yeah,
for us?
gotcha.
So I don't know what your thoughts are, but since you gave us homework, I'm gonna give you homework. You can look at
Alright,
that, see
sure.
if you think that,
All right,
I'm sure you're pretty familiar with,
yeah,
water environment,
oh, yeah,
American Wastewater Association, that kind of stuff.
I got all those licenses,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm good,
So, that's just my thought.
okay.
Any other thoughts
Question?
for George?
All right.
You're done?
I'm done. I'm making it easy tonight. I just wanted food for
We
thought.
just
How
need
to
to be
move
home
forward.
by 9.
I'm hurrying.
Sorry. All right,
Where's the ball game?
Mr. Mender is not here, so are you, filling in?
If you could stand it.
Absolutely.
Yes, I am.
Come on up.
I've got a few items. I know each of you, but I work nights, so I'll introduce myself. I'm Brian Dubner. I'm a captain with Clayton Police Department. We have a few things that we want to make sure that you all are aware of. The Clayton Police Department participated in some training that we partnered with the Morgan County Sheriff's Office. They allowed us to come in and sit in at no cost, which was great, on a myriad of training sessions. So all of the officers did at least one day, if not 2 full days of training. The Indiana Law Enforcement Academy mandates that police officers do a certain amount of training every year, and that is a January through December requirement. So doing that earlier in the year is really good. waiting until October, November to try to find various training classes to get things done. And again, no cost, which was great. So that was a really positive experience, and it looks like as far as training solutions goes, training for police departments, really, really critical task. So I think we can do that every year, which is nice. I myself am a master instructor with the state. There are 3 levels. Master is the highest, so I can teach any topic outside of like firearms, defensive tactics, and emergency vehicle operations. So when you talk about training for police departments, those take some specialized skills. So everything else, and I mean, there are, as you can probably imagine, 20 to 30, a myriad of training topics, so I can teach the rest of those. So as far as the Clayton Police Department of training goes, we are way ahead of the curve, which is quite nice. And then generally speaking for patrol, we've seen an increase in speeds on US 40. So I've had officers spending some time right outside of town to try to encourage motorists to slow down. So we've done a few more traffic stops on 40 and 39 coming into town as well. So hopefully we, know that when folks are coming to visit, they're, going slowly and abiding by the speed limits. I know the speed limit signs are down, but we're working on getting those back up. The lighted ones that we had on the south and north end of 39 coming into town. And then thirdly, the Clayton Police Department has started a process to hire more reserve deputies. At least we want to explore who, candidates that might be interested. So we have an active process going on now. We are advertising with the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy. Their website kind of becomes the hub for the state. Everybody knows that there's generally speaking, a bulletin board on their website that kind of everybody goes to. We are advertising there. That opened 2 weeks ago, and I actually got an application on my phone while I was sitting there. So we're at 14 applicants now, and the process will be open for another month. Jenny, can I ask a favor?
I've had 3 people come in and pick up applications.
Thank you. I should have communicated a little better. I wasn't expecting so much interest so early, candidly, which is a great problem to have. Could I leave a stack of applications at the front? Okay, so I've got some printed and I'll leave those there. The instructions were to contact me and not to come in, but I think folks just said, well, we'll go to the town. So now we've got a backup for that process. So next month we should have a better idea of next steps for what this process will look like. Before coming to the Clayton Police Department, I ran processes for the Indiana University Police Department. So I'm aware of what the requirements are for this on the state side. Should we decide to hire an applicant, and we can talk more and give an update a little further down the road as the process is just opened. And then lastly, David, you mentioned body cameras and needing someone from IU to reach out. Mm-hmm. I missed the first part of your comment. Were you just wanting to know what vendor they're using for body cameras?
No, I was going to reach out and find out how much video is captured in like a 5-minute stop. And then, of course, that all depends on what kind of compression you're using and how much resolution you're setting it at.
Yes.
And so then my follow-up question is, what do you set your settings at?
Yeah.
So you can find out how much data then you're going to have to
Sure.
store for every 5 minutes that you have. It was Nick that I reached out to.
Okay.
And he's gone out too.
He's getting ready to graduate and should be back, so hopefully he can.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Which is great. Sidebar. But yeah, I can reach out in a week or two if you haven't heard from him.
Yeah.
And,
I probably won't. So if you can reach out to whoever
sure.
technical person's there that kind of knows
Making a
about
note.
that kind of thing, and if they're using a cloud or a premise solution.
I know they're using cloud.
Okay.
I feel comfortable even speaking in front of you all on that. I was around at IU when we implemented body cameras. I was on a part of the team that reviewed them. So we wore lots of different models and decided what worked and what didn't.
Okay.
The company that they used was formerly called Utility. It's now, or Body Worn, and now it's called EOS by Utility.
Okay.
So the idea with those cameras are they're inserted under your clothing. They cut a hole in your uniform, and there's just a circle. So there's not a physical camera outside of your uniform. It's embedded in your,
You might give that information to Thomas too,
I will.
or you guys can work on it together, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I can have Major Luce reach out, or I can, whatever you need, I'd be happy to facilitate that on behalf of the
Yeah,
council.
that's fine.
Okay. Outside of those, so we talked about training, a little bit about patrol, this reserve process, and equipment. We don't have any formal requests at this point for town council, but I did want to make the council aware that I learned about an opportunity to receive a donation of handguns from a federal law enforcement agency, and I took it upon myself to reach out to this individual to kind of confirm his status as a law enforcement officer and how legitimate the donation would be given the items in question. And he is in fact a member of a federal law enforcement agency based in Indianapolis. There was no guarantee, but I put in a request for some equipment that would be in good working condition, near new, and then at no cost to our department and the town. So I'll make sure that either myself or Chief Remender gives you all an update should we be selected. As you can imagine, budgets are thin everywhere, and that was an interesting and well requested advertisement when I found it. So we'll see. Outside of that, are there any questions for me? Anything I can take back? Yes, sir.
So the eclipse on April 8th.
Mm-hmm.
So last month, Chief Remender said that all the officers are gonna be in town for that.
Yes.
So my question, I guess, you have 3 patrol vehicles, so what's, I mean, do you borrow police cars from another town, or how are you gonna staff a car?
We often staff 2 to a car.
Okay.
I won't go into why we do that, other than we don't have a full fleet of vehicles, but it's actually not uncommon. Anytime someone's in a training status, there's usually 2 to a car, and there are some other benefits as well. We don't, totally candid, we don't have a formal plan together. He and I, Chief Remender and I have spoken a couple times about the eclipse and what we're gonna do. We will have an increase in staffing for sure. It's going to be interesting. And we know and want to be prepared, and will be prepared come the date. So we can talk more outside of the meeting on what the town would like to see and how much of that we can deliver. But everybody that can work will be here. And that should be the expectation.
Okay. I got a list of preparedness ideas from the EMA director.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, work together, put together something that we can put out to, business owners, property owners, visitors to Clayton. Here's, some things to be aware of on the day.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And so obviously, all of the things in her list aren't necessarily for public knowledge. Some of it's things for behind the
Sure.
scenes for us to be prepared.
Sure.
Some of it's for, the public to know to be prepared. So I just need to make sure that we're coming up with something that we say, okay, here's a way to deal with the day and what's gonna happen. They're expecting a whole lot of extra traffic in Hendricks County for that event. And I know they have events at the racetrack, up in Speedway or up in Claremont.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Indiana
In a Raceway Park, yeah.
They've got an event at the fairgrounds, and they've got, so all that kind of stuff is just gonna make, for an interesting day.
It will.
So we just I just thought from the town that we could work together on something to put out and say, here's some things you wanna do to be prepared for the activities of the day.
Yeah, it's a great idea. I would potentially take it a step further and say that Chief Remender and I and whomever else from the council would like to do that should include the fire department and see who's planning on working that day and who would be around. The more many hands make light work, and there may be a fair bit of work that day. So, but yeah, I'd be happy to speak outside of the meeting today to get a little more detail.
Okay.
we have any money, Jenny, that we could, that we could get like, a little hospitality table set up here for the police department on that day? Waters, chips,
I don't know, why not?
or something like that? Could we do something like
I suppose, yeah.
Thank
It'll
you.
be under promotion, we'll take back some of Mill Creek's money.
All right.
Nothing else for me? Thank you all.
Thank you very much. All right. I do have a thank you card that was sent to us related to Christmas in Clayton. So a bunch of people signed this card from here in town. It just said how much they enjoyed the activities, they enjoyed the Christmas tree and the Christmas lights. Do you know who this came from exactly, or just, okay? So, just all kinds of people signed it saying, thank you for all the Christmas decorations here at the town hall, and so I thought that'd be good to share with everybody. Thanks.
Well, on that note, who won the best Christmas decorations in town? Lights or stuff? Never did.
I don't know, Jenny posted it on the Christmas in Clayton website, so it's there if you wanna look and see.
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
I'll print it out for you, Joe.
Does she know does she know who she's talking to?
Yeah.
All right. Anything else for the benefit of the order? Graham, you haven't said much, right? You got anything? All right. Don?
Nope.
Yeah, I got a question for Graham. Since we took down the speed signs because our permit run out or whatever on the state property, would it be legal, say like in my front yard on my right of way, to put them signs up on my property, not the state property?
For speed limit,
Yeah,
you're talking out here on the main road?
the main road, we had them on each end of town, and our permit expired from the state. They didn't renew it evidently. Isn't that right?
Right.
So,
Did they deny it or they just didn't?
They did not deny it, so, my
Yeah.
part of the process is I'm gonna resubmit a brand new application for a new permit, and, when we previously did it, Chief Oliphant just said, well, get one for 6 months. So, but I don't know why I couldn't ask for a permanent
Right.
permit, to say, I don't want an expiration, I don't want an end time for it. He thought we were gonna move them around, but then everybody liked them so much in those locations, so let's just leave them and see what happens, and then the state finally caught on to my
yeah.
shenanigans, so.
Yeah, I think you could
So I
control
just
some
wanna,
higher if you did that.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know if that was legal for being a homeowner, and you weren't on your right of way, not the state's right of way. You was back far enough.
right. When the Department of Transportation isn't opposed to the sign, their biggest aspect of it is release of liability. So the first application was me signing this paper saying the town isn't gonna go after the state for anything related to those signs being there. So I don't know why there would be an expiration on a thing like that if they have a signature saying,
Yeah.
we're not gonna hold you liable, but we'll try it again
Okay.
with an application where we don't ask for an end date to it, and see what happens. I don't know if the inspector will go for that or not, but,
That's all I had.
okay, Dave?
Nothing.
Jenny?
Nope.
All right, I have consensus to adjourn.
Yep.
All right,
Is
meeting
there-
adjourned.
Is there any way a person can ask a question?
Yes, sorry, if you want to sign in on this paper up here,
All right, I have two general questions.
meeting not adjourned.
Okay.
We'll just put this down here.
and then state your name and address for the record, and then ask a question.
My name is Graham Griffin. My address is 30 West Michigan Street, Clayton, Indiana 46118. First question is regarding, recently I lost my wife and I had to make a creditor's report. She was a victim approximately 18 months ago of an assault over on Kentucky Street. One of the bills that had to go on to the creditors was for the ambulance ride that evening to the hospital. I've pursued it through the prosecutor's office, but I wondered if there's anything as far as victim rights or cities in Clayton regarding that person being responsible, especially now that she's passed away, as a contributing factor to the assault.
I'm not aware of anything in Clayton specifically. I do know the state of Indiana has a Victims Assistance Fund. Did the prosecutor send you to that department to?
They've contacted me with a few people, but it was kind of, well,
I mean, they have money and they pay for specifically medical bills of people who are victims of trauma from.
it
crimes.
happened before she was accepted to that.
But she
That
was a
that
victim-
incident allowed her to be accepted for that.
Right, she's a victim of an assault and then had to be transported by an ambulance to a hospital. The
By the police.
Indiana Victim Assistance Fund is specifically for that.
Okay.
So we can talk about
Indiana
it
victim. And the
after this. I can.
second
point you to the right
question
point.
is related in a manner. When you were speaking about contractors and certificates of occupancy of building and living in a place, my question is, you don't need to have certain inspection or facilities available to homicide in a place that's a building like John referred to. Nobody wants to really invade into a person's abode about what it is, but I mean, I could move in my garage and rent my house out. I have electricity, but where would I defecate or things like that? Is it allowed for a citizen of Clayton to be allowed to live in a structure that doesn't have the proper inspections that would be needed for occupancy?
That would be an issue for UDO research. So Pete would need to look up what does the UDO say about a structure that you live in and here in town.
It wasn't me personally. I'm saying I know Brian Mosier's relatives over there in the corner wanted to charge the city to clean up the garage that Egbert guy was living in, or whatever his name was. And I use that as an example. Is that acceptable to live in your garage?
Well, I'm not prepared to answer questions to you about somebody else's property.
No, I'm saying,
If you
can I
want-
move in my garage?
Again, that's an issue that where Pete would research the UDO, or Unified Development Ordinance, to find out, is that something that we allow?
Right.
Okay?
Yeah. That's my main question.
All right,
I'll
very
take it
good.
up with him later.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. All right, consensus to adjourn?
Amen.